attention. You can expand number of human beings by expanding space. Space is one. You can expand life of each human, which is health, which is very important. And you can expand the attention span of each human, which is AI. You can replicate yourself and have it. So these are the three frontiers of progress beyond what we live every day: space, health, and AI. And this session is about two of those three frontiers, so it will be very exciting. Let me start by inviting Sandeep to give us a brief background on BFI and the mission BFI is on, and then we'll start with the session.
Uh, yes, looks like this is working. Hi everyone. I'm Sandeep. I am generally known to be the founder of Polygon, which is the one of the bigger deep tech companies from India globally. It is generally considered one of the top five blockchains across the globe. And in 2021, I during the COVID Delta wave, I launched this fund to help India during the COVID wave, and I just simply tweeted that I'm going to raise some funds for this and contribute my own to help India. And at that time, that fund became really big. It eventually became around I think $500 million, which is like 5,000 crores. So it became really big. And we did a lot of activities, like a lot of emergency relief activity in India at that point in time. A lot of people know that when India finally started the vaccine campaign, we had the vaccines, but we did not have the syringes. So we this is one of the many projects we undertook. So we worked with UNICEF to procure around 16 crore syringes for Indians. So you can imagine that at that time, in the first two waves, if India vaccinated around 35 crores individuals in India, one in every three individuals was actually vaccinated using the syringes donated by us. So that was what the scale of BFI became. But then we moved BFI. We realized that we are doing a lot of this, short-term emergency relief. But once the COVID wave subsided, we decided that we want to focus the BFI funds on the long-term impact on India on the ground, especially in the healthcare. And that's where we started pushing our efforts towards the upstream research, which we call, like, the things where the researchers can build new products, indigenous products, and indigenous kind of innovations in India, which can actually have a long-standing impact for public health in India. And so right now we are working with literally every large healthcare institute, whether it's AIMS or like multitude of hospitals, ICMR, government bodies, everybody, like even the PMO and ANRF, we work now, and we work closely with now, and we basically we have a very long pipeline, which we recent yesterday only we actually unveiled in IIT Delhi, which is the program that we called Innovation Full Stack, right? And that basically includes for the healthcare and medtech startups, because they have to, unlike the software startups, you build a software and it's live and then people are using it. For healthcare startups, it takes a long journey from technical TRL, like technical readiness levels 1 to 8, which is like a 2 to 3 year journey from clinical trials to for building prototypes and whatnot. So we build like a whole pipeline of helping bodies in this, include by getting help from ICMRs and IITs and all these large institutions. So literally for a medtech startup, from going non-software startups I'm talking about, from actually thinking about the product to actually delivering the product, in the entire journey, there are like 5 or 6 touch points where BFI is actively helping. And our goal is, and me being from a software journey, like yesterday, I was talking with Dr. Gaurav, who's the CEO of BFI, that, why is in India there are like so many large foundations and government puts in so much money and all that. Why nobody is thinking from this angle? And I think like that comes from the fact that me and like some of the other team members, we come from a very heavy startup background, and we have seen firsthand, whether it's in the Silicon Valley or in India also, that what kind of impact startups can deliver. Actually, like, I strongly now believe, after doing a lot of philanthropic activities, that, at the end, if you are chasing for the impact only versus you are chasing for some commercial outcome and then deliver the impact, I think that actually works much better, 99% of the times. So I encourage startups to pursue their commercial dreams, and when they win big, then give it back to the society. And in healthcare, if they win big, the impact is automatically coming on the ground. So that is where we are doing, and that is what we are doing. And we have like, till now we have around, I think, 45, 50 top tier researchers all across India, from these large, like the top tier institutes from IITs, AIMS, who are funded. Then we have around 55 startups right now. We have funded, in various stages. These startups are, and and now we are actually building for the healthcare startups where they lack very heavily, which is the sales and distribution pipeline, where, like, kind of advisory, that how they should go and put these products to the market. That is also we are building. So these are some of the high level activities of BFI, and we will continue to do that. And out of the 54 startups that we have, around, I think, 15, 16 are AI startups also. So we will continuously be doing a lot of funding in the startup space also, as well as, like, working with large institutions in India to bring this innovation actually on the ground, like not only the patents, but patents to the actual product in the market. And we'll keep doing that, and AI is obviously going to be a very deep focus on that. So, I hope the panel, touches some of these point of views today.
So thanks, Sandeep. I think we can keep sitting. Looks like there's a screen. So let's get started with the panel. The goal is to, there's a very interesting set of panelists, and I would request them to introduce themselves when they start. The goal of this panel is to discuss broadly the impact of AI in health. Sounds like a boring topic, but I'm very sure with the panelists around this topic will become interesting. So let me start with Karthik sir. So let's start by thinking about this big disruption that is happening right now. It has deep socio-technical implications. So you, as a policymaker for health and broadly, what do you think? What are the steps that you are looking at? How should we, as policymakers, rethink our health design, and sort of how health is delivered to our citizens and how research is done in it?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'll probably get up just because I have colleagues sitting behind.
Sorry, you should introduce yourself first.
Yes, I will. I will. So my name is Karthik. I'm the regional advisor for digital health and AI at the World Health Organization. Because you wanted me to introduce, and because a very exciting panel here. So I started off as a medical doctor, trained in India, then worked for the IAS. I belong to the Punjab cadre, so did more public health and more governance work in Punjab, and then went to the US to get trained in computer science, where I did my PhD in health informatics, trying to build AI systems that are safe, that improve outcomes in treatment planning systems in radiation oncology. I continue to be a faculty at the Yale School of Medicine and the University of North Carolina, and just recently joined as faculty at Oxford, and then came back to India, and in Punjab as Secretary Health and Secretary IT, did the first ever large scale population level deployment of an AI machine learning tool to to screen for breast cancer at the entire state level, which is essentially a Nature published study. So not only do I do research based in the US and UK, but I do large scale implementations in India. And now in my current role as WHO, in WHO as the regional advisor, I essentially do what is more of policy and building advocacy on how do we use AI at scale for India. So one of the key things that we've done, and I'm very grateful that we have Mr. Sandeep and BFI, which is essentially supporting this effort, is when you want to construct a house, the first thing that you focus is building the foundations. So if you want to use AI in health, again, the focus has to be foundations. And very often, when we want to build tools, we always get very excited about those shiny, beautiful, glamorous tools and not really focus on those foundational guardrails and the foundations that are needed for AI in health. Now, what Mr. Sandeep talked about and what we see across academic institutions in India, and more importantly for startups, is if you want to do anything in AI, the fuel is data, right? Now, data, the biggest problem in India is you have so much of data, but large parts of this data is not even usable for AI machine learning models. So the first thing, therefore, is AI. For AI in health, the most important thing is data. So the data and digital systems that you have in India are one, fragmented, and then frugal. So, for example, a country like the UK, which has a biobank of about 700,000 patients, has given about 7 Nobel Prizes over one biobank. And seeing the UK biobank, the US has built a biobank, which is a large biobank. China, Japan, South Korea have all built biobanks. But if you look into entire Southeast Asia, not just India alone, our biobanks are extremely fragmented. They're so frugal, and therefore, when you want to look into data that is both genomic data, environmental data, health data, and EHR systems, you really don't have longitudinal electronic records. So the good thing that we've done essentially in the government is through Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission today, we've laid the foundation that you need to ensure that we can build the longitudinal electronic records. So you have the DPI, the digital public goods in terms of Aadhaar, which is now ABA as a health ID. You also have the digital public infrastructure that is specific to healthcare, like the UHIs that have been built. We have the National Health Claims Exchange. Now, while these foundations are essential, they're not enough for us to see healthcare and more AI in health. So very often what happens is for a startup ecosystem to thrive in health, the first thing is going to be data. And for that, globally, we have standards like OMOP, standards like FHIR, which will ensure that data is truly interoperable, data is available across the ecosystem. So as WHO, what we do is we kind of promote these standards to be adopted, and India is essentially taken over about 48 standards. The second thing that we do is if we really want AI in health to grow, the government needs to have a strategy for AI in health. And this is essentially going to be launched. So India is going to be the first country in the global south to have a strategy on AI in health across entire of global south. It's only US, France, and UK and two other European countries which today have a sector specific AI strategy in health. But over the past 6 months, with the government, the World Health Organization is now launching the strategy for AI in health. So right here in the conference today at 4:30 in Auditorium 1, the Union Health Ministry is essentially going to launch the strategy. So what is going to be therefore important is if we want AI in health to thrive, if you want to do pilots, if you want to do blue sky research projects, we need data. We also need the governance guardrails, essentially for both regulating tools as well as to ensure that every tool that is used for patients is one safe for every user. So I would want to be very sure that every AI tool that goes to the clinic and is used on us is one safe, it is ethically developed, it is equitable as well. So we have those governing principles as a part of the policy document. And more importantly, if we really want to do research, what we need is the strengthening of the institutional review boards. And we need to be able to generate a lot of evidence from every research that we do. And very often, what we've seen both in digital health and now in AI is this problem of pilotitis. There's so many pilots that happen, but essentially everything that works well in research does not work well in a clinical environment. And it works in the clinical environment. How do you really deploy them at scale at the population level? So the science of scaling from the research, from the lab to the bedside, and from bedside to the population level is an evolving science. And that is where I think WHO and the government is essentially keen. And so we have the policy guardrails to help a startup ecosystem right from getting access to data, have adequate governance guardrails so that every tool is safe to the user. And then we generate evidence through this network of collaborating centers, research institutions, generate that evidence, and then scale them at purpose, scale them at the population level. So we can be proud that India is going to have a strategy document, but which will give all these important guardrails that we'll need, right from data to scale. But what is now going to be important is to implement this strategy. And that is what the government is inclined in. And so, as policymakers, our essential role is to ensure that we create an ecosystem that will allow researchers, startup ecosystem, government, and more importantly, people who derive benefit from this ecosystem development. So, one of the key pillars that we have in the strategy is to ensure that we have made in India models, made in India applications, and built for scale and for purpose to reach health for all goals for the country. So I would also use this opportunity to invite you for the launch at 4:30, and more importantly, participate in ensuring that the strategy also gets implemented eventually. So thank you so much for that opportunity. Thank you.
Right. So basically, from policymaker side, a great strategy document, data, and then tools and guardrails and to enable and ensure safe development. That's what I'll just summarize that in one go. Three of the five panelists here have been medical doctors, then researchers, and then managers in sense of either CEOs or startup guys or policymakers and all kind of capability. So which tells you what the life of a doctor of a future would look like. These are doctors from futures that we have here sitting in present. And on that note, I would like to bring in Ajay to talk about, first please introduce yourself, and then talk about how do you see doctors adopting AI in hospitals for diagnosis. Personally, I have found doctors being very reluctant when you give them any external source of authority. Like my experience in doctors have been like that, including from Google search days. But now I don't only have Google search, I have a doctor sitting with me when I go to a doctor, which is ChatGPT. I'm sure it is irritating the hell out of everybody. I want to know your perspective on how how you see doctors adopting that going forward.
Sure. So, is it audible? Yeah, thank you. So, as an introduction, I trained as a neurosurgeon a few decades ago, and then I was a neuroscientist doing stem cell research in the US for a few years. Then veered into management. I was a McKinsey consultant in the US and Middle East for 5, 6 years, and then I came back to India and was fortunate to run three large hospital chains. I was the CEO of Max uh, between 2011 and 14, and then Manipal hospitals and a small stint with the IHH hospitals in India as well. But my passion has always been technology. So for the last 6 years, to your point, Himanshu, I've been that doctor who's dabbling in technology. So I've been building AI companies for the last since 2019. Actually, it's been a while. So I've observed, to answer, come to your question, I've observed this space over the last 30 years evolving quite dramatically. And one of the myths that is propagated is that doctors don't like technology. I used to be told this when I was a CEO that, oh, doctors don't like technology. But the reality is that doctors are perfectly comfortable with a, $20 million radiation equipment. They are perfectly comfortable with very high-tech MRIs and interpreting what a proton spin looks like and what it means for their patients. But when it comes to IT, the problem is IT has never solved any doctor's problem ever. So there's a lot of skepticism in the doctor's mind in India and in the US, where also I've worked all over the world, that you guys build things and then you ask us to use them and they don't give us any benefits. So there's a lot of skepticism.
Well
right?
played, well played.
But now we are seeing a very interesting trend that is I'm observing in doctors, especially in the US, who are very highly regulated, who are very worried about medical legal risks of using AI. And what they're seeing is that their patients are walking into the room very well informed, probably more so than themselves. So, in fact, and one thing is very clear, that doctors using AI for diagnosis or treatment is going to be a very long journey, because you will have a very high burden of proving safety and efficacy. There is no way of getting around it, and US FDA has a nice framework to sort of prove that your AI algorithm is safe and effective. But it costs, just like a pharma drug, it costs a lot of money, and you need to take over a lot of risk. What people like OpenAI and Claude, etc., have done is they've just made their general models also very smart on healthcare information. So they are not subject to the same risk that a doctor would be if he was to, or a AI company like mine would be if we were to say, oh, I can diagnose tuberculosis better for you, I can diagnose cancer better for you. Now, don't get me wrong, there are companies that are doing that, and there is a large body of innovation happening in faster diagnostics, better therapeutics. But to my mind, that's at least 3 to 5 years out before it becomes full time adopted. So, to come back to your question of what doctors are doing today is that
In the
they are,
context of the AI
yeah, so
excitement.
they are using it informally. They are informing themselves better that okay, if this is, I'm a neurosurgeon, I'm not seen an eye injury for a long time, I can ask ChatGPT and it'll give me a pretty good answer, right? And then I can call my ophthalmology colleague and do whatever is needed for the patient in a much better way. So the productivity of the doctor does go up. However, I think if we are only thinking about AI as a chat GPT or a chat bot, we are making a big mistake. Because what has happened in the last 2 months, I think those of you who are in the AI space are watching a person like Andrej Karpathy saying that he's gone from writing 80% of the code in first week of December to now writing 10% of the code in the last week of January. There's a dramatic shift because of the rise of the agents, if we may call that in a positive way. Now, what that does is, I'll give you a real illustration. A non-coding person like me can create an personalized app for an autistic child, one of my friend's daughter. He just gave me all her reports, and I could feed that to Cloud Code and work with Cloud Code to create a personalized app for her using her hyperlexicality and her hypermusicality and her weakness with mathematics. So I'm using that as an illustration to say that very soon it is possible to have 7 billion agents who are taking care of your health for you for the cost of a couple of $100 for in a time span of 5 to 7 days. This was not possible. I mean, if I want to build an app for myself 6 months ago, it will cost a few tens of thousands of dollars, and it won't be good at all because it will be a static machine, right? So imagine a world where you have a 70-year-old with diabetes, with early kidney disease, with probably some disability of walking because of knee problems. That gentleman can now be well guided by a personalized swarm of agents taking care of his own records. That to me is a revolution that is going to happen in the next 12 to 18 months, which will bring personalized medicine, true personalized medicine, not the genomics wala personalized medicine, which actually never delivered the result that it was supposed to. So, so I think watch out for that space in the next 12 to 18 months, where you will have your own friendly AI agent telling you how to live longer and have more attention for benefit of economy.
Okay, so as I said, doctor from the future, how many agents are right now working for you, Ajay, while you sit here?
So I have only agents working for me. I don't have humans working for me anymore.
Okay, so great. This is the I have follow-up questions, but I think in interest of time, we'll come back later. For instance, I'm very interested in grounding part of it as you're building these medical agent. What's the source of truth? How do you verify? Uh, but moving on, so from doctors and their relationship with IT and AI and how it's improving, as Ajay pointed out, doctors have always been technology first. Robotic surgery has been around for already a while. I have a surgeon friend, and unfortunately, I saw a video sometime of knee surgery, and but it's just the robots working on your knee. It's this crazy thing how that looks. Uh, so, talking about technologies from the future which medical science uses, I would like to bring in Dilip, who is again one of those medical doctors who is also a rocket scientist building technology, to introduce himself and talk about the future. How is this multimodal AI? When we talk about AI, we probably here still think of LLM, but you are from the vision side. You are from the eyes side, right? Like in the sense of the AI that can see. How do you see AI affecting medical science, and what are the things that excite you?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's working. All right. Thanks. Very august panel here. Thanks for having me on. So, just quick in the way of introduction, I'm Dilip. I'm a medical doctor. I did my initial training in a government medical college in Kerala. and then moved on to do internal medicine, pulmonology, and critical care in the US. I was at the Cleveland Clinic for a few years. Similar story to some of the guys here, moved back. I'm one of the two co-founders of Cloud Physician. Cloud Physician is a company that delivers healthcare primarily in the inpatient setting. So if there's a bed, an ICU bed, ER bed, neonatal ICU, dialysis units, these are the settings that we support. And our story is sort of a two-part story. So phase one was when we wanted to create a accessible distributive care model. So we actually are now in about 120 cities or so in India, covering around 200 hospitals. And we deliver 24/7 ICU, ER, NICU, and dialysis care to about 80% of our hospitals are tier 2, tier 3. So a lot of impact. We've seen about 200,000 patients now in our journey.
So, sorry, can I just interrupt? Maybe go ahead. For illiterate people like myself about this area, you should tell what does it look like? What are you setting up?
Yes, I'll get there. So we've seen about 200,000 patients all in the ICU setting. And how we do that is we get to an ICU. We digitize the whole ICU. So we have our own lighter version of an EMR like you were talking about, compliant with fire, SNOMED, and so on. And that's our sort of data layer for our structured data. So, and we've used a mobile first approach. Those of you who want to volunteer a guess, which is the largest EMR company in India? It's a joke. It's WhatsApp, right? So you get all your data on WhatsApp, and we need to fix that. So that was a clue that if you go mobile first, you probably get more data a little bit better. And so that's the initial transition we made. But that data is not enough, right? So being a virtual doctor for a long time, I would always gravitate to the video stream, because that, at least without even touching the patient, at least I can get an idea of what the patient is looking like. Are they in distress or not? So phase one was about digitizing the ICU from a data standpoint, but also having eyes in the ICU. So we've got about 800 cameras or so across the entire network. I'm from Bangalore. Bangalore Traffic Police has about 650, 700 cameras in Bangalore. So similarly, we have 800 across these ICUs. And the visual data plus the bedside EMR data is what gives us that 360-degree picture. So we've been doing that for about 8 years or so now. And with the backs of the data and the 24/7 on feed, we're able to deliver care. So I'm not on the bench side, on the biomic side, for example. We're more on the care delivery side. And so the first phase of what we were doing was actually sharpening this delivery angle. So some of the hospitals and ICUs that we worked with, we were able to show up to a 40% reduction in mortality simply because they didn't have access to an ICU doctor. And so these numbers are published numbers. We can talk about them. But what was really interesting was that as we were sort of delivering this service, the AI momentum was picking up. And so importantly, like you were saying, we're not in the LLM space. We obviously use LLMs to force multiply our doctors and nurses. It's a 24/7 service. But what we realized was that the visual aspect was the sensory aspect, right? So we're not a hardware camera manufacturer. We would use any camera, take the video stream and do analytics on that. And these are non-LLM systems. They're non-generative in nature. And we're now able to pick up stuff that are very visual in cues. So, for example, the world's first model for respiratory distress in an inpatient, we've built that. We have a patent for it, an Indian patent for it, for example, and deploying it now in a hospital in the US. So that AI for the masses, accessible AI for the masses from a computer vision side is the focus area that we have. And to your question and push on robotics, I think what we are building is actually getting a very exact spatial view of what the patient room looks like. And I'm of the belief that the patient room itself needs to be a participant in the patient's care. In fact, supporting the patient's care, not just the doctors and the nurses. The patient needs to be inside an autonomous room. And getting to autonomous care is a high bar, right? Safety, responsibly, explainably, all of that. And that comes on the back of data. And so we are now streaming about 1 terabyte of high def ICU and ER video a day that is then being annotated by experts in our care center in Bangalore who are doctors and nurses. So it's a 2-layer doctor and nurse annotation. And what that does is it actually gives you a fertile data set to in fact build that robot brain of the future, right? So the LLM guys will come up with the language kind of structure that's required for a robot brain. We hopefully will provide what the spatial knowledge a robot needs to have for autonomous care. and then brick by brick, you're able to build this entire autonomous sort of an ecosystem, starting with an ambient system, then an agentic system, and then hopefully autopilot for you, so that finally a doctor has time to talk to you. Yes, so this the story of cloud physician is actually a extremely fascinating story. You guys are on a very good path. The reason this is very fascinating for me is that there has been this thought process on what advantages do Indian companies have. Of course, you can flex the muscle, lift more weight, and outpace the Chinese and the Americans. We can do that. But what inherent advantages do Indian companies have? And one thing was data. It has already been said that data is an advantage which Indian companies have. Our data is what built Google Mail, Gmail, and our data is what will build the next generation of healthcare. And Cloud Physician is an example of such a company. You guys need to build a foundation model for vision soon, man. So, speaking of rocket science and sort of foundation model, so we have on the panel a good friend of mine, Sandeep. And one thing I like about Sandeep, and this is why I want to pass on to you this last part, then we'll come to others. A good thing about Sandeep is that suddenly the world has become extremely innovation oriented. The startups are proving math theorems and physics theorems. So this is like some bizarre time we are staying in, and these startups are not raising $1 million to prove a math theorem. They're raising $100 million to prove math theorems. That's the annual budget of Indian Institute of Science, roughly $100 million. That's the amount of raise that 2 or 3 startups have had, and this is because something has been unlocked. It's new for most of the world, but for some people like Sandeep, this is the thing I've told Sandeep in person also. Sandeep has always been this kind of person who thinks a little bit more disruptive. That's the starting of sentient also. When I first met him, I said, what the hell is this guy talking about? And so Sandeep, you should come in from this side, that you yourself are a lot into longevity and sort of health hacks at a personal level. I see that you're intrigued about it. And on the other hand, you are into startups which are disruptive. You are seeing all these kids. They are kids now. We were kids a few years back, but now looks like 20-year-olds are ruling the world, who are coming up with these grand ideas about what healthcare companies should do. We'll continue. We'll just get back to you. So, given that, what are you looking up to? How do you see this world of health in the next 10 years? What will it look like, from innovative startups, crazy things that will change how we live, moving beyond this whoops that we are wearing to something else that we are wearing, and continuous monitoring and continuous diagnosis and continuous feedback?
Yeah, I mean, we have doctors in the panel, so I will not talk a lot about health. But one thing that I recently have started thinking is that in the health space overall, like you see, like whether it's AI, robotics, or whatever, in the health sector, for a human being's well-being, we are winning on most of the fronts. Like, for example, any big kind of disease you pick, whether it's cancer, whether it's like any big disease, like name it, and you will see that we are getting better and better and better in curing those diseases, preventing those diseases. But one thing where we are failing very heavily is the diseases related to the brain, the mental diseases. And like when the AI and the age of abundance finally comes in, we are going to realize that human beings are going to have a lot of time on their hand. Like everything is available in plenty, like kind of reduces or kind of removes a large part of the basic struggle that keeps human beings occupied. So like people are always worried about the AI dystopia, right? Like where AI takes over the world and they control and kill all human beings and all that. I'm not worried about the AI dystopia. I am worried about AI utopia, where everything is great. Now what is the meaning of human life and all that? So for me specifically in I am starting to get deeper and deeper into how AI can help human beings to more mentally fit, more happy, more fulfilled in their lives. And I've because I went through like this crazy startup journey in the last 5, 7, 10 years, and I myself started developing like this anxiety and whatever, like all these kind of problematic things. So I feel very deeply for that. And I really expect, obviously, like initially a lot of AI will be implemented on the on solving the bodily problems of related to health. But I think, like for me, the last frontier is going to be the mental health, and this is where like I'm putting some of my efforts there.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting point. I had not thought about it. I was thinking that this Zen and mindfulness that we talk about, if you outsource everything to AI, then all that is left is mindfulness and Zen, I guess. But that's a joke. Uh, so just to recap for you, ma'am, thank you for joining us. So we started with we covered various aspects of how AI is affecting health and healthcare. We started with policy, how policymakers are thinking. Then we spoke about how doctors are adopting this AI technology, which is categorized by Ajay as IT technology subset. Uh, and then we spoke about how we are going beyond just language models into vision and other more frontier part of technology, which will be implication of AI like robotics. But I skipped a topic in the middle, which was the question I had for you, and maybe we can come back to it, which is AI for scientific discovery. I did mention that there are these hundreds of millions of dollars of math proving startups. What I did not mention is that there are billions of dollars of medical discovery startup, including Anthropic. After software, which will die in 5 years, what will these companies do? They will discover new health solution. That's the big promise of this trillions of dollars of capital that is coming in and sort of the valuations that are coming in. So I want to know from your side, what are you seeing in drug discovery, scientific discovery relevant to healthcare? And that's a different thing from diagnosis and these kind of things. The long scientific research for healthcare. How is AI affecting it?
Thank you for asking that question. And I must assure you that ICMR is completely focused on.
Please introduce yourself. Sorry, I forgot to say.
Okay. I'm Dr. Taruna, and I'm heading the Division of Development Research at Indian Council of Medical Research, which is the apex body in the country, akin to US National Institutes of Health in India. And we have 27 institutions of our own, which are focused on various diseases. And we have ranging from malaria, and you must have heard National Institute of Virology in Pune, because they were the ones who actually discovered the COVID virus and then gave it to Bharat Biotech and developed the COVID vaccine. So this is the institution part. But there is another big part or bigger part of ICMR, which is called extramural research, where we are supporting more than 350 medical institutions of the country for developing medtech innovations. And not only developing, discovering as well, and descriptive research also. So we have 4 wings, 4 divisions in ICMR extramural, which starts from descriptive research, where we try to understand what a disease is all about, what is the population that is getting affected, what is the incidence or prevalence of that disease in our country. So that is descriptive research. And of course, the big data analysis, when you do the omics, you try to understand more about the disease pathogenesis. The second component is the discovery, which the question is focused on. And the third part is development, which I am heading at ICMR. And the fourth part is delivery, which is the most important thing. Why product which is developed and is acceptable to the regulator for marketing is still not deployable, why it is not being adopted by the country. So that part also we take care of. So in the discovery part, as he asked me, so in the discovery, we really are relying on the speed with which AI will deliver us the solutions. We are still in that conventional approach where we are doing omics. We are trying to understand the differentially expressed genes, differentially expressed proteins. We are isolating exosomes, circulating organ specific exosomes from the blood, and we are mapping them and seeing what is there which is actually leading to the cause of the disease. We are using them as biomarkers. We are using those genes as targets for our therapeutic agents. So that is where this omics data evaluation is the part that AI is going to help us with. And AI is going to help us with the target that we need to identify. So there are, at this moment, we have libraries, thousands of molecules that we screened again these genes and proteins that we are having differential expression in a particular disease process. This identification takes months together because we are doing everything in the lab. So we have moved to the next step where we are doing all these interactions in silico in the computers. But still, it is all manual and it is taking a toll. We still are taking years to complete this target. Now, what we want is months and weeks. And that is where the AI is going to enable us, because we will understand how this whole program happens, and we will develop an AI tool which will predict that this is the potential target. Go and work on this in the lab and in the animal model. So within a week, within a month, we will be ready with the preclinical studies, and your drug journey and your vaccine journey is going to be shortened. And that's how, when next pandemic comes, you don't have to wait for a year to have the medicine. You don't have to wait for a year for the vaccine. We will give it to you in months. Thank you.
This is such an intriguing conversation. I'll have a quick follow up, although we are running out of time. Just a quick follow up is that from the AlphaFold story, what we learned is that these discoveries happen in some kind of a play mode where the AI is playing with itself in an environment to discover. It's like a game. So, my understanding is for that, the requirement is to convert the data that you have into that game environment, which we call RL environments. Is this an effort which is underway right now? Is this what we should? Is this how data is feeding medical research?
Absolutely right, on the spot. So the first step is to have the data. Then only the AI tool can be developed. So that data repository. So ICMR has created a national data repository, as well as in the institutions we have data repositories. We have already developed an annotated, curated data set of X-ray images, more than 10,000 of the affected TB individuals, as in different stages of the disease, as well as the control individuals on our Chennai Institution for TB Research. So you can visit that and you can use that data. So that is
Public data?
Yes, it is publicly. You just have to write to the director and you get the permission to use that data for development. And already one NGO in Gujarat has developed the tool for TB diagnosis. You can develop better tools. AI tools will never stop at one. You will have better versions, more effective, more safer versions coming for the public. So this data set is available. Not only this, we have developed, along with Indian Institute of Science, gold standard data sets for the cancer. So we have breast cancer as well as glioma. Both these data sets have already been onboarded on Mighty portal, which is called AI Kosha. So AI Kosha is having these two data sets, and you just have to write to Mighty, and this data set will be accessible to you to develop the AI prediction tools for both these ailments. So this is what was the first step. Along with that, we have Center for Excellence, which is in 6 IITs. We have Center for Advanced Research in various medical institutions and bigger hospitals of the country. So we have more than 30 Center for Advanced Research, which are evaluating the devices and the diagnostic tools that are being developed at IITs in the hospitals. And then we have a full network, Indian Clinical Trial and Education Network, which is having 84 sites across the country. So this is for clinical evaluation. And after this, field feasibility, because this evaluation is being done in the hospitals. What about the field? When your tool goes out and is being handed over to a primary healthcare professional and they have to use it. So we have to see that field feasibility. And after that field feasibility, we have more than 170 medical colleges and rural health research centers for doing this field feasibility. And beyond that, we need to have health technology assessment. The tool that you have developed, whether it is actually deployable, whether it is cost effective, whether it is going to be safe for the human race, and whether it is going to be safe for Indian population. So we do a health technology assessment at Department of Health Research, and this is a key, because this will give to the government that this tool is very useful. It is when you compare it with the standard of care. So you compare your tool with the standard of care, which is manual predictions by the clinicians. The diagnosis that is being made by the clinicians is compared with the diagnosis made by clinicians with the help of an AI tool. And then you compare the cost you compare the time spent on it, you compare the accuracy of the diagnosis. All that goes into that cost effectiveness ratio that we call it as incremental cost effective ratio. So that ratio is given to the government along with the cost of your tool, which is affordable, and then government will take up your tool for deployment to the masses. Thank you.
So I think we're roughly out of time, but unless we are thrown out, I'll ask one very quick question to everyone. This is an amazing panel. I could have done one-on-one interview for 55 minutes with each one of the panelists here. I could also have done a 55-minute monologue. So the last question for everybody: what excites you and scares? The cliche question. What rapid fire 1 minute? What excites you and scares you about AI? I'll start with the answer. What excites me is the possibility to learn anything. Uh, I hated biology in school. Sorry to say to all the doctors on the panel, and I love it now because because I am a more math oriented person and physics oriented person. So I want to know the key problem before I know a topic, and bio key problems are very hard to understand for a school going kid. Now I can do it with AI. What scares me is that I feel all my secret strength skills, which I built over years, will become so generic in the next 5 years that everybody will have it, and people who don't deserve it will also have it, and that scares me. But Dilip, we'll start from that side. What excites you and what scares you?
Well, I can't think about anything that scares me. I guess it's yeah. There are so many.
You have to say one.
I have to say one.
What scares?
I would say I'm most concerned. Let me put it that way about how the next generation is going to take on this new tool that we have not yet learned to deal with or evolve with. Just like maybe television or social media, once it starts, we have no idea what it's going to do. So I think rather than scare, since I'm a dad, that's the concern right now, that I don't know how the next generation with these new tools, how are they going to perform in school? How are they going to make friends? I don't know the answer to that. And that is a concern. But the upside is dramatic hope. I think this is the best time to be alive. That's how I look at it. So many tools, so many things to do. It's just exciting. So I think the undying hope that comes with this is really empowering.
So for me, I think what's going to be very exciting. So thank you. What's going to be very exciting is the possibilities that we have in terms of what. Think about the human mind in terms of the huge amounts of data which we really can't analyze and which AI can, right? So I think the possibilities of what were some very difficult problems that we could solve, we could probably solve them much quicker now. That's something very exciting. What I'm concerned is how do we do this without adequate guardrails, with the technology going at a pace which is so rapid, whereas the regulatory guardrails not really going at that pacing gap that exists around the world, right? So, and this gap is actually increasing. So, for example, if you look into the randomized controlled trials today on AI, there isn't a single randomized controlled trial in entire of Southeast Asia. Almost all the clinical evidence that's coming from standard RCTs, 66% is just from the US and China, right? So, going forward, think about the huge gaps that would exist between the world. So, I think that's what is a concern for me.
Yeah. What excites me is the ability to probably finally eradicate the hunger and poverty from the world, for good, and especially like as they say in US that everybody, a large number of US population is actually like one healthcare scare away from bankruptcy, right? Because if you like somebody in your family gets like a very big like a health a problem, it can bankrupt your entire family. And growing up very poor in India, I actually experienced, some of the family members who had to be, who had to accept the death, like, old age nannies and all that, like, because we didn't have the money to get the cancer cure for them. So hopefully that will be finally eradicated, and there will be equal opportunity for all the kids and human beings. So that's the exciting part. And the scary part I told you is like, eventually we are going into a utopia. And then what's the meaning of life? Like when AI is doing everything for you, what is the meaning of life?
So very quickly, I think what excites me is that now the purpose of life, if it is to live to your full potential, is going to be available to 8 billion people. That's a very dramatic shift that will happen in front of our lives. And that's wonderful on one front. But I am also aware that there are at least 3, 4, 5% people who are actually malicious. And they'll also have that superpower to influence others, cognitive warfare, mental hijacking. We already see that through TikTok and Instagram in some way. So while 95% of people may be well meaning and living to their full potential, we need to have a way to deal with the remaining 5% as well.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you. So I will be rather quicker. So the speed at which AI is going to give us the healthcare solutions is one thing which we are all very excited about. And the second thing is, you asked about the scare. The scare is patient safety, because there would be variety of tools that are coming out and would be, cleared by the regulator because they are ticking all the boxes, but still patient safety remains a big concern for us, and we are putting the guidelines for that. You will see see sooner the revised guidelines coming from ICMR. Thank you.
So we take a picture with her.
Yeah, let's take another